Bible scoffers who mockingly ridiculed the biblical text as coming from primitive Bronze Age sheep herders who didn't understand science and obviously couldn't have pulled off the technological feats that the historical accounts record, should rethink their view, especially in light of what British historian of science Derek de la Sola Price said after examining the Antikythera and realizing its capabilities. Discovering such a mechanism in a Roman wreck is like opening a pyramid and finding an atomic bomb, or like finding a jet plane in the tomb of King Tut. Endless searching. Thumbnail after thumbnail, title after title, just hoping you might find that one surprising gem that you're hoping against hope might be there among all the mindless movies offered on various streaming platforms. With woke Hollywood being what it is and has been for several years now, gone are the days of me blindly stumbling into a movie theater and being blown away with a movie like the first Indiana Jones movie, The Raiders of the Lost Ark, from way back in 1981. From the opening scene where Indy's whip cracked the pistol from his turncoat guide's hand to the huge rolling ball of rock he managed to escape by the skin of his teeth moments later, I was riveted to my seat with my eyes wide open and mouth agape for the full 115-minute runtime. So much so that when the movie was over, my friend Donald and I looked at one another, then slowly slid down below the backs of our seats until we were out of sight of the theater attendants. And then we slid back up when the second screening started so we could watch it again. And as a Christian now, I don't recommend that. I'm just saying what we did. Of course, the latest and likely the last Indiana Jones movie, titled The Dial of Destiny, hasn't even inspired me to watch the trailer, let alone slide my thumb down onto the play button with some popcorn in tow. From what I've seen and any commentary on or advertising for it, it seems like the typical dumpster fire I'd expect from any Disney product these days. There was, however, one particular thing that got my attention upon seeing a synopsis for it, and that was the MacGuffin, because every indie movie has some sort of supernatural object that he's running around looking for, in this episode that was called Archimedes' Dial. And that was a fictionalized version of an actual mind-blowing computational device known as the Antikythera mechanism. If you're unfamiliar with it, the Antikythera mechanism is a device found by sponge divers off the coast of the Greek island with the same name in 1901, in an ancient Roman shipwreck filled with valuable cargo. Like a fantastic adventure story where the heroes finally discover the treasure chamber, ornate furniture, jewelry, bronze and marble statues, weapons, gold, and jewelry were all found mixed together, including this mysterious mechanism. And what might you ask is the big deal about this find? Well, there are several things. The major point is the sheer level of sophistication this device obviously possessed when fully operational. One cannot miss the superlatives used by researchers when commenting on the apparent genius of the creators, based on the description of what it could apparently do. One article describes the device in glowing terms with comments like, "This device is just extraordinary, the only thing of its kind. The design is beautiful, the astronomy is exactly right. The way the mechanics are designed just makes your jaw drop." The reason for the flattery around mechanics and astronomy is that the Antikythera device has a differential gear, as do modern cars, and could track the sun, moon, and eclipses. It also may be able to follow planetary movement, has been described as a pocket universe, and is referenced as an analog computer. A Smithsonian article describing it contains a quote from Joe Marchand, author of the 2008 book Decoding the Heavens, Solving the Mystery of the World's First Computer, saying the following: "The device is probably the most exciting artifact that we have from the ancient world. And this is because more than a millennium before 13th century Europeans invented the first mechanical clocks, the Antikythera mechanism employed similarly complex technology and intricacy of 18th century clocks, including gear wheels, dials, and pointers to chart the cosmos. Discoverers believe it was used for all manner of things, from predicting eclipses to tracking sporting events like the Olympics that were scheduled to take place." And the following quote raises an interesting point regarding this mechanical marvel. "The greater question puzzling scientists is how such a useful device could have disappeared entirely from the archaeological record, so much so that no record of anything as complex appears for the next 1,000 years. A question which London Science Museum's curator Michael Wright concluded, I find it as easy to believe that this technology survived unrecorded as to believe that it was reinvented in so similar a form. What comments like this reveal is that this discovery goes against the common wisdom of the day, which is, of course, the evolutionary worldview taught in most school systems. Generally speaking, it promotes the idea that mankind has grown more intelligent as we evolved over time. For example, I constantly see people making comments against the history described in Genesis 6 regarding Noah's flood and the ark. They categorize it as an obvious myth because they think there's no way some primitive man like Noah could have built an ocean liner and looked after all those animals. However, these quotes we read earlier undermine their objections, because some of the technology that we're taught originated in the 1700s may have been around thousands of years earlier, but just not recorded. So the intelligence to build such devices has been around a long time. Discoveries like the Antikythera mechanism are, in fact, great support of the biblical view that holds that man was created as very intelligent and has degenerated rather than evolved since that time due to the effects of sin and the curse because of man's rebellion against God. So while many people who stare zombie-like at their smartphones can't conceive of technologically advanced people existing thousands of years before us, the Antikythera mechanism proves them wrong. As much as we like to think of ourselves as advanced, modern, and highly intelligent, any random group of people that was somehow isolated, picture a small shipwreck on a desert island, would quickly revert to what would be described as a primitive state within a very short period of time. Once everyone's batteries ran out, everyone would be back to basics pretty quickly. Find a cave for shelter, find a stick to defend yourself, and go find some food. Now, technology has advanced quickly during the last 100 years, primarily due to the recording and sharing of ideas. Unlike in the past when whole libraries of information were sometimes destroyed by conquering kingdoms, one can quickly research past discoveries and build upon the achievements of others. However, because of the incredible number of technological advances that have taken place during this time frame, the development of electricity, automobiles, nuclear power, and computers, etc., many of us get trapped into thinking that we are somehow smarter today than our forefathers. For example, one can continue to see this bias even in the writings of the very same researchers who profess to be blown away by the incredible sophistication of the Antikythera mechanism, because they had no idea the Greeks had this level of technology. And yet, they still question the ability of its creators in the next breath, all because of what they think they know what the Greeks supposedly lacked. Commenting on whether the device would be able to perform certain functions based on the micromechanics that would have been needed to be incorporated within the device, one of the researchers, UCL mechanical engineer Adam Wojcik, said, "The concentric tubes at the core of the planetarium are where my faith in Greek tech falters, and where the model might also falter. A modern manufacturer would use lathes to carve the metal in precise, small shapes, but ancient Greek designers did not have that luxury." Of course, prior to the Antikythera mechanism being discovered, if asked whether he thought the ancient Greeks were capable of pulling off the feats of technology that he acknowledges it clearly demonstrates, he likely would have responded no to that as well. Why? Well, because they hadn't found it yet. However, what they did know prior to it being discovered is that writers such as Cicero, who lived around the 1st century BC, wrote descriptions of devices that sound quite similar to the Antikythera. However, because they lacked hands-on evidence or any real technological detail about how the machines would have worked, historians never took the descriptions seriously and ignored these eyewitness accounts. As one of the Smithsonian articles says, "One of the things it tells us is we don't know the half of it in terms of what people were capable of in the ancient world, because so little survives. We've just got this one device. If this mechanism hadn't survived on a shipwreck, and we hadn't been lucky enough to find it, there would have been this whole branch of technology, the heights of what the ancient Greeks were able to do, that we would have absolutely no idea about. And it just makes you wonder what else we have no idea about. Relying solely on archaeology means there's always going to be a huge underestimate of what these ancient people were capable of." Indeed, Bible scoffers who mockingly ridicule the biblical text as coming from primitive Bronze Age sheep herders who didn't understand science and obviously couldn't have pulled off the technological feats that the historical accounts record, should rethink their view, especially in light of what British historian of science Derek de la Sola Price said after examining the Antikythera and realizing its capabilities. Discovering such a mechanism in a Roman wreck is like opening a pyramid and finding an atomic bomb, or like finding a jet plane in the tomb of King Tut. Of course, God's Word is the ultimate eyewitness account, and it records that around 6,000 years ago, Adam was created perfect, capable of speech, naming the animals in a very short period of time, for example. And Genesis 4:21-22 records metalworking and musical instruments within a short time after the creation date. And such tasks require a high level of intelligence and ingenuity, as does Noah's making of the ark. When you think about what mankind has accomplished just over the last 300 years, it's not hard to imagine that mankind could have accomplished a great deal technologically in the first approximately 1,650 years before the flood of Noah's day. Of course, without an organized governmental structure where ideas can be recorded and shared, history shows that technology can't get very far, because the absence of government and a police force that would punish lawbreakers would be a major limiting factor to advancement of technology before the flood. After all, God specifically said he was going to destroy that world. Because mankind had become so evil and wicked, he decided to wipe it out and start all over again in Genesis 6. So while there might not have been laptop computers and cell phones on the ark, this amazing find, for those without the veil of evolutionary thinking and millions of years clouding their thoughts, highlights that the ancients were in no way more primitive or less intelligent than we are today. Indeed, there are many other examples of technological brilliance from what would be considered ancient cultures today, besides the Antikythera mechanism. These include the use of optical lenses, utilizing electric batteries, steel making, and some architectural feats unmatched by modern builders, among many, many others. Colossal and sophisticated edifices like Stonehenge, the Great Pyramid of Giza, the monuments at Göbekli Tepe, the architectural genius of the structures in Chichen Itza in Mexico, and the ruins found in Cusco in Peru were all built without modern machinery. And today's engineers stand in awe at the intricacy of these structures. While the evolutionary worldview presents ancient people as unintelligent brutes, the Bible explains that man was created by God and was highly intelligent from the start. However, looking around our planet, we find mounds of evidence that ancient man was as fully capable and at least as highly intelligent, if not more, as we are. Apparently, Archimedes' dial in the latest Indiana Jones movie was supposed to enable time travel for the once great hero, a favorite theme in many fictional tales. However, as authoritative as some sources may sound as they make claims about human history, our understanding of the past is limited and fallible, as it depends on the interpretation based on what you believe about our origins. And everything we experience makes far more sense when you interpret them through a biblical worldview. Evolutionary interpretations can't compare to the eyewitness accounts given to us by God. And once again, artifacts like the Antikythera mechanism demonstrate that the facts observed in the world around us match what we read in God's Word.